Hi, it's Amanda from Always in Love. We are here with another review with our special guest, Robin. She's going to be talking a little bit about the audiobooks for the Walsh series, and we are talking about Restored by Kate Canterbary today. So this book is actually the second book of a couple that we met in Necessary Restorations, Sam and Tiel, and it kind of talks a little bit more about after they got back together through their wedding that we saw in the Cornerstone, and just kind of things about being a married couple and the ups and downs and all different types of life that they kind of encounter throughout this book and kind of make it out together. So let's talk a little bit about our book boyfriend, Sam. What do you ladies think about Sam?
Oh, I think Robin should get the floor on the first try on this one.
So yeah, Sam Walsh has my heart. He has had my heart since the first book, Underneath It All. And the moment he met Matt's then girlfriend, Lauren, there was just something about Sam, his charisma, his sort of willingness to flirt in front of his brother and his family. It was just, I don't know, there was just something so endearing about him in that book. And I continue to fall in love with him throughout the series. And then when we get to Restored, forget about it. I mean, I thought I was in love. It was solidified with this book. He's amazing. His growth, his openness to love, something that he hadn't, I think, been previously. It was just astounding. And yeah, he is my ultimate book boyfriend. If I could find him in real life, I would be complete.
And what I liked about Sam is that he almost can undress you with his eyes. And even though we're not seeing him virtually, it's how he's written that I can imagine him in a room, you know, meeting Miss Honey, Lauren, in the first book, and how he just looked at her. And then as time goes on, you know, we get him when he first meets Tiel in the elevator, and, you know, he's just sitting there tapping out the music, and he's just frustrated. But I can see he's not arrogant, but in a way he is like, okay, this woman's driving me batshit crazy. And then he starts to mold and falls in love with her. And then we have Restored. And being married, it's not all hearts and flowers and children. You have to work at it. And I think that's why I liked Sam, and he's a top shelf for me personally, is because he's a normal, newly married husband going through the emotions of, you know, being married, trying to give a child, and getting what is, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in life, and he's pretty real, and he's pretty funny, but he grounds Tiel out, and he, you know, his surroundings, he just wants to make sure everything is in perfect, not perfect, but just in restored faith that everything's going to be okay. And that's kind of why Sam is my guy too.
Reasons why I like Sam was in the last one, he has so many health issues. He has so many things that he kind of needed somebody to lean on to help him kind of restore himself to the way he was. And in this book, he has kind of even grown up and gotten even stronger to be that person for Tiel. And it's a really great change in his character to see him kind of going from this, you know, man whore who has all these health issues that everybody has to watch and keep a close eye on, to be the one who's actually standing up and taking care of not only Tiel and all the emotions and the new family and things like that, but also Riley and all different family members, things like that. He kind of steps up, and you really see him grow into himself in this book. And it was a really great journey to see Sam kind of become that man in this book. He was such a great husband. He's such a great shoulder to lean on for Tiel, but he also kind of they have that back and forth banter. They have still that heat, that passion, that kind of thing, but they're still, it's more a story about their emotions and making it through this first year of their marriage, and the kind of ups and downs that goes through. And it was just a really powerful story in that way. And Sam really kind of came into his own in my eyes in this book, kind of, you know, as one of the strong brothers. You know, he kind of has the same stature or attitude as Patrick, you know, the elder statesman in this book, because he's kind of just taking care of everybody.
Yeah. And I think that's what's kind of is it was really the title is very fitting for this book, and I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to do spoiler alerts here, but there was one scene at the family when they're having one of their meetings, and he's helping Shannon when she was, you know, having an issue, you know, throwing up, and I just thought the way he grew up in that moment, talking to her and discussing other things. I don't know. I loved him in the other book, but this one just felt like he brought so much more to the table, and I love this book. I couldn't put it down, and I think Amanda and I were texting back and forth several things that I was saying to her, just because it was restored of faith and restored of humanity. Don't you? What do you all think, Robin?
No, I think you're right. I think this is probably my favorite of the 5 books so far. Not just because it's Sam's book, but really because of the reality that Sam and Tiel show in this book about the difficulties of the first couple of years of marriage, and when you're having to really connect and bond and bring together 2 independent lives into one, and trying to reach those goals together that you've set. Sometimes they're a little difficult to reach, and you have to figure out how to still work through life when that happens. And I just love that. And Tiel is a character that is very close to me for a lot of reasons. She's very reflective of, I think, who I am in many ways. And there was one moment just before their wedding that hit very close to home for me. Oddly enough, things I had actually written in my journal, she says. And I remember in that moment reading that, having to stop because I was so emotional that I couldn't continue reading the story. And so this book just felt very personal for me in telling their story and watching not just their growth together as a couple, but their growth as individuals, and how they bring that together into both their new family together and into the Walsh family as a whole. It was just it's such a great story.
So that brings us to Tiel. So in this book, Tiel she sort of takes on a position of stability, a tenured job at this thing that everybody knows that's not really what she wants to do, but she does it to kind of provide this steady base for her family and for her and Sam and for their life starting out together. So you see all these different things weighing on her, her family, their, the way that they interact with her, the way that they don't really understand her. It all sort of weighs on her in this book too. That's really what I liked about them. They were really good at being the shoulder that the other person needed. They had the trust tree, and they would kind of talk everything out. And that it's really one of my favorite parts of this book because it's so real. Instead of having these silly miscommunications, people not saying what they mean or what they want to say, these are real people. They really talk it all out. They lay everything out on the table. They may kind of have to push each other, or in Sam's case, get her half naked in order to get her to say being comfortable whatever she wants to say. But it really starts to cement them as a couple. On the trials and tribulations, the things that they experience really kind of come together.
And I think that the supporting cast, Tiel, is, I've always felt a kinship for Tiel. I know some other people have voiced things about her, but I love Tiel. She's a beautiful character, and she's not realistic in the book world. I know people like her, and I think I appreciate it. I love her idea that music is her heart, and she knows she can do everything musically. And I think the trust tree is probably a pretty cool synopsis of what goes on in relationships. Doesn't matter if it's a marriage or anything. The whole point of being able to communicate with your friend or your spouse or any loved one is really important. And I think it was really nice to see these kids, nice to see them grow into this relationship. And I really liked the interaction with everybody else of the family, the Walshes, and a few good Riley moments.
Yeah, this book had a little bit of everything. It had their wedding, it had some Shannon, their story. You kind of get to see everybody in all the books, and that's kind of one of the great things about the series. You get to kind of touch base with everybody. You get to see things from Sam and Tiel's perspective of what's going on. You know, when Shannon and Will are at the firehouse for the wedding, that kind of thing. So you get to see all that kind of stuff from different perspectives, and that's really great in the way that the story's told. And you also get to see Shannon and Tiel kind of together, that brings them together as something where they were not necessarily the best of friends. They have something that kind of brings them more together, and that was really great to see them kind of all growing in their relationships too. So overall, this book was fantastic. It is definitely a great addition to the series. Even though it is book 5, you really don't need to read anything other than book 3, Sam and Tiel's first book, Necessary Restorations. It's a great book, a great series. We really hope you enjoyed it as much as we do. Are there any kind of final thoughts on Restored, or do you think we kind of covered it all and how awesome this couple is? Tasha?
Oh, well, Restored, like I said before, the name kind of says it all. It's kind of interesting. In all of Kate's book, the title plays throughout the book, and I like how this is restored, and it's restored so much with just Sam and Tiel as a couple, and Sam and Tiel as a family, and just the whole thing. And it's probably it's up way high. I mean, if I can do more than 5 stars, I'd give it 5 bazillion stars if that was possible. It was a great book, and Kate did an amazing job with how she told the story, and it seemed very real for me. And there's moments, along with you, Robin, that were pretty emotional for me. Some things were very true that had happened, and so for me, it was great. And again, it was my favorite book. I think I read it. I think I alienated my family for about 3 hours that day. I think I locked myself in my bedroom and told them not to even talk to me, don't look at me, send food so I can read this book. What do you think, Robin?
I agree. And, for me, I think so much of Restored is Tiel's story itself, in that she's being restored back to a healthy point in her life and family. Apparently my dogs think so too. But she's, I think her faith in family and in love and in having it all in that regard was something that was missing from her life. And coming into this book and having the connection to Sam and his family that she has, I think really ultimately restored her faith in that type of love. And that love on a whole was something that she could attain, and that was something I don't think she really believed in prior. So for that, this book, it just brings so much, and Kate really does a great job of not only reminding us of the different types of love that there is in the world, but that it's flawed and it's imperfect as we are, and we can still have that. And that is something that I walked away from having to sort of believe in cynical me on this type of thing. And it actually, I think, even restored my faith in that type of thing. So very personal, one of my favorite books of the year, hands down.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely one of the top books that I've read this year. So we really highly encourage you to check out this book and the series. The rest of Kate's information, the rest of the series are going to be in the links. And now we're going to throw it to kind of Robin to talk a little bit about the audiobooks in the series, because they are fantastic in their own right.
They are. To date, the first 4 books, Underneath It All, The Space Between, The Cornerstone, and Necessary Restorations. Sorry, I flipped those last 2. Necessary Restorations being book 3, The Cornerstone being book 4, are available in audio format. with Lucy Rivers and Christian Fox as narrators in a dual narration style. So he reads the male chapters and she reads the female chapters, and they are exquisite. They bring forth the emotion and the understanding of these characters that, as I was reading the books, and how I interpreted the story, and they bring it to life in a way that it's not just a two-dimensional piece of paper, and these characters aren't just suddenly, imaginary with their voices and with the way they perform as either Matt and Lauren or Patrick and Andy or Sam and Tiel or Shannon and Will. They become real and they're in your home, and somehow they're talking to you, and you're not having to imagine these conversations because the performances are so strong. They're amazing, and I can't speak highly enough of the audio format of these books at all. And I've encouraged so many who've said to me, I've either tried audiobooks and they're not for me, or I've not had a great experience in the past with audiobooks. I've said to so many, start with Underneath It All. Listen to the story, listen to this narration. You will be blown away, and it will literally, it will restore your faith in audiobooks. And I've had many come back to me and say that's exactly what's happened by listening to this series, these 4 books in audio format. They've discovered an entire love of audiobooks that they didn't know they would have. So that's exciting. And these were my first books in audio ever. I'm a huge Walsh fan. And so when I heard that there was an audio format, I thought, sure, why not? Let's try it. And I have to tell you, I have become hooked to audiobooks. I can't think of a day that I'm not listening to a book as much as I'm reading one. So I highly recommend, strongly recommend everybody, start with Underneath It All and go through those 4 books, and then of course pick up Restored, and then soon here in a couple of weeks, book 6, The Spire, Erin's story. Looking forward to everyone getting to know her and reading her story. But yes, start with this and go. Natasha, what do you think? I know you're also an audio fan, and you've listened to the books.
I was, I'll be honest, those made me I was impressed, because as the person was talking, Underneath It All, when it was Matt talking, that's the voice I would hear. And it was nice because I do this while I work. I listen to audiobooks while I work in numbers. And it really, it brought the story more real for me. I've read the books, but I've listened to the audio. I probably listened to all the books at least 3 times each, just because I just want to relive those stories again. And it's a mini movie in my mind as they're both talking. It doesn't matter if it's Sam and Teal's story or Shannon and Will's story or Patrick. I mean, all the stories, I just felt like they were, I could just feel them being real. And I loved, again, the audio version is the best series that I have listened to. And I do a lot of audiobooks also. And it's, I was impressed. And the only reason why I stumbled across them is I had audio credits, which I didn't know I had. And so I got all 4 of them at one time. And I haven't stopped re-listening to them again, because I'm actually back Underneath It All. I think I may ruin the audio version of it to keep re-listening to them again.
So I have a question. I don't listen to audiobooks as much. I do listen to some of them, but I know a lot of people say that when it's different couples and the same narrators each time, they get them confused. Like the same person is doing Matt and Patrick, and do Christian and Lucy kind of have different inflections? Do they perform them differently? Does that really make a difference, or is it just the way that the words are written?
They do actually perform them a little differently. There's a deeper tone that Christian will take on for Patrick that he doesn't use for Matt or for Sam. And for Lucy, I've noticed a slightly higher tone when she's performing Shannon, which I find really, really interesting. Because Shannon is a peanut. She's described that way. She's tiny. So I like the fact that she has a slightly higher tone for Shannon. And it's almost a very deliberate delivery of words when she's reading as Andy, because Andy's a very deliberately selective word person. And so they seem to have such a strong understanding of the characters that they in turn put that into the performance. So whether it's Lucy reading as all four women at a table, you can clearly understand when she's reading as Lauren versus Shannon versus Tiel versus Andy, in both her inflection and tone, and just actual delivery of words, because it becomes, depending on the character, maybe a little jumbled. If she's feeling frazzled, sometimes as maybe Lauren has, or like I said, very deliberate when she's Andy. Natasha, what do you think?
I really it was interesting because I was really worried how he would sound as Will. And when I first heard it, the cornerstone, I was like, wow, he's so authoritative. And he really made Will, with Patrick's kind of my go-to guy. And so I was really worried that he was going to sound more like Patrick, and he didn't. It was more, he had like this stern tone in his voice when he was reading Will's story. And then Shannon, again, it was just nice to hear the difference with the when Lucy would do the different ladies. And it was concerned, Amanda, I'm not going to lie, when I downloaded all four, and I'm like, oh, it's the same person, for all. And I was really impressed, and amazing job for these audio actors. Oh, I don't know what they're called. I hate for that to state the wrong. How they really put the tone of all four characters and into the story. They did a great job. And I agree with you, Robin. I think there was a lot of, you can tell in the tone of who she was talking about and who he was talking about, which book you were at, because of the way their octaves and their voice worked out.
Yeah, that's great. That definitely probably will help a lot of people who have the same thing. Like when you see a big series and they have all the same narrators, you're always like, oh, it's going to feel like the same thing over and over again. But yeah, it's definitely clear in these, the ones that I've listened to, that they are definitely different. So that's one of the great things about this audio series in particular. And the way that Kate wrote it, you can definitely tell who is who and who is thinking and how they, and that's one of the great things about this book. And through the series, as they progress, you can see each person, their tone or the way that they talk might change slightly because they're growing up, or they're deliberately thinking things through. That's really great. And the way that everything's written, it's also very real. And that's kind of one of my favorite things about this series and Kate's writing in particular.
Yep.
Is anything else? Does anybody have anything? Are we?
I'm good.
Said all of our piece about the Walsh series today.
Oh, I can't wait for Erin's story. I am just quietly sitting here waiting to read it.
Yeah. The Spire, December 13th. Definitely pre-order. The links will be in the description, as well as all of the other links for Kate's books and the audiobooks. Again, we are reviewing Restored, the 5th book in the series, and we thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we hope to see you next time.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us, Robin.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun talking with you guys. I love it.
Well, you're welcome back anytime, Robin.
Anytime.
Bye.